Okay, so we have a new problem here. Number 5 says the new SWC vendor codes consist of the first 3 characters of the vendor name plus the vendor ID. So here's an example of the Vinci company. The vendor code would be VEN100. Okay, so we're going to write a statement to generate that code. So your first instinct might be to use substring, which would absolutely work here. We would say select substring to pick off those first 3 characters in the vendor name. It would be vendor name. We would start at position 1 and grab 3 characters, right? I know we're not done yet, but I just want to prove a point here. This will work, okay? I'll run that. Those are the first 3 characters of the vendor names. But I want to throw in a different function here. And as I said, substring will work, but there's another function that I want you to know, which is the left function. This is when you want to kind of pick off the left part of a string, such as the first 3 characters of this vendor name. So we will provide the vendor name, and then all it needs to know is, okay, how many characters am I cutting off from the left side? Okay, so the effect will be the same. But so there's really no right way of doing it. You can use either or. I guess there's a small advantage to using left in this case. You only have to worry about 2 arguments as opposed to 3 arguments, which is not a big deal, obviously. So there's that. So we'll use left, okay? And then we have to add the vendor ID to that, okay? And this, so that would give us the vendor ID, and that would create the code that we are asked to put together here. And we'll call that vendor code. Now, there's going to be a problem here, though. Let me run this. And I'm coming up against a wall here. It says conversion failed when converting the varchar value ven to data type small int. This is what we call a type mismatch. This happens in computing quite a bit, in computer programming, and also this type of coding that we're doing in SQL Server. This is, the result of this operation is a string, okay? The 3 characters of the vendor's name. It's a string data. The vendor ID is an integer type. Looking at the data over here in the vendor table, you can see the vendor ID is a small int, all right? So this is like an apples and oranges type of situation. I cannot use this addition operation and add these 2 disparate data types. So what we can do, we can find a way to make it work, and we can use our convert function that we have used many times in this class. So if I convert, for example, the vendor ID to a varchar type, then that'll work, okay? So yeah, let's go ahead and run that, and the whole thing kind of sails through, okay? Again, we could have made that work with substring as well. All right, we have a couple easy ones that are kind of related to this. It says use the upper function on number 5 so that the codes appear with uppercase letters. So instead of small letters in the vendor, the first 3 characters here, I want it all uppercase. And we really just have to run the whole shebang through the upper function. So let me just copy this. And this will be number 6. And all I really have to do is just run this whole thing, this whole chunk here, through the upper function. Okay, I just put the whole thing in parentheses in the upper function. And there you have it. I probably could have just put this portion in parentheses and leave the number part out of it. That'll work too. Okay, the effect is the same. So you can see the codes are all in uppercase. You know, then I think I am going to do one more here, number 7. Number 7 says modify 6 so that it uses the concat function, concat meaning concatenation function, instead of the plus sign to join the two parts. This eliminates the need for the convert function. I'm not really huge on the concat function, but you absolutely can use it. And I guess you could argue that it would be better than what I did up here with the plus sign. I typically concatenate with the plus sign, but there's a concat function, and here is the advantage of using that. If I well, let me see here. I'm going to leave the upper thing out of it for now, just because that's going to cloud the issue. But let's say I want to do that left part of the vendor name. Okay. I'm going to put that in there, and then I want to append to that or concatenate to that the vendor ID. And this will be the vendor code. Vendor code. Okay, and this is coming from vendor. Okay, so let me run this. And we see these nice vendor codes. I'll do the upper thing after the fact, but here's my point. The concat function took the first part, the first 3 characters, which we chopped off with the left function, and then slapped the vendor ID right onto that without any complaints whatsoever. Do you remember when we did it up here with the plus sign? And I got that type mismatch error, the apples and oranges situation, and I had to finagle something with the convert function. The concat function gets around all of that, and you don't have to worry about data types as much with the concat function. So that's one advantage to using it. And then, you know, like the concat function is an interesting function because most of the functions have set numbers of arguments, like substring, for example, 3 arguments. The left function, 2 arguments. But with concat, you can keep on adding more and more strings and probably even numbers too. And it's just going to string it all together. You can just keep adding and adding and adding to it if you want. Okay, so in this one, yeah, there you have it. And then, you know, we can wrap this in the upper function, or you can wrap the whole thing in the upper function too. But I'll just put the upper function here. Again, we've got nested functions going on. This is interesting. We have nesting 3 functions deep. Okay, we have the left function inside of the upper function, which is inside of the concat function. So 3 functions deep.